Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the three Fantastic Four movies. Now, the other day I dropped a video talking about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And in that video I talked about the Fantastic Four movie and some of the stuff within that's coming out next year in July. And so I thought about talking about those other four Fantastic Four movies. I just recently rewatched the ones from the early 2000s, and actually tonight, while filming this video, I watched the 2015 one. And so I'm going to go through, talk about all three of the movies, and let you know what I think and how I would rank them amongst Fantastic Four movies, I guess. So anyway, before we get into the video, I remind you guys to please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on all my socials, Instagram, Twitter, do all that stuff. And yeah, that being said, let's get into the video. So Fantastic Four 2005 stars a pretty decent cast. You got Michael Chiklis playing the Thing, Jessica Alba playing the Invisible Woman, and you have obviously Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm. This movie basically is an origin story about how they got their powers. You have basically Reed is kind of strapped for money and needs to go to Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom. Goes to him for some help for this project that they're doing, and so Victor helps them, pays for everything, and while they're in space, like solar beam flare kind of thing hits them, and they gives them their powers essentially. And as far as like origin movies go, I'd say it's okay. I mean, you figure out, it's like you learn some of the backstory between Victor, Reed, and Sue in the movie. Like, oh, they knew each other, they went to school together, and everything. And Sue and Reed, they used to be a thing, and what have you. And then you have Michael Chiklis playing the Thing. Which I will say, a lot of people like to poke fun of the look of the Thing in this movie and the first two movies, and I always thought that it's a practical suit. There's a guy in there, presumably Michael Chiklis, I'm guessing, who's in the suit actually doing the acting, having to deal with the all those prosthetics on them, and I can't imagine for anybody it's fun. So I think, as far as like somebody trying to act within that suit, no, it's not a big CGI thing. I don't think. I guess the best CGI in the movie is probably the effects that they use for Johnny Storm, for the Human Torch, and because the fire effects and what have you. But like some of the effects were not up to par in 2005. Like you have the stretching effects, which I feel like even in later movies, even in modern stuff, like we just had The Boys. This year. They have a character that stretches, and when it's, I guess when it's in the suit, I guess it doesn't look bad, but like when it's like human texture, like this bare skin tone, it looks really weird. And so I don't think the effects were there up to that. But I guess for 2005 they looked okay, because I don't know how much that had been done at that point. So for 2005, it's fine. So I'm fine with the practical suit for the Thing. I think it looks fine. The look of Dr. Doom, they had the guy play him. Eventually he gets the mask and everything, and I think that that design is all right. Everything, it's not comic accurate, if you want to say, and I guess with that, they tried to do their own thing, just like with Reed Richards. I think he's supposed to be much older in the comics, but he's supposed to be playing the same age as Jessica Alba, which makes sense. They're around the same age. So, but he gets the little gray streaks in his hair. They don't go full on gray streaks. They just do a little bit. I think they should have went a little bit more. It's like, oh, now it's more noticeable, because in the movie it's like you could barely see it. And so I think they did okay with what they had. Storyline, shows them trying to figure out their powers and everything, trying to change back to their old selves, and then Dr. Doom he goes on full bad guy because early on in the movie he's not a very nice guy, um, and all that stuff. So now he's gone full bad guy and tries to take him out. And so they eventually work together, and you know they save the day from people trying to kill one another. That's the first movie. It's an alright, action movie. I wish it's one of those things where it's an origin movie. So we got the rise of the Silver Surfer, and so we do see some saving in the movie, like when they early on when they get their powers with the thing and the bridge and everything like that. So he does save people, but it is kind of partially his fault. But he is trying to save somebody, but then he causes a big thing pile up with cars and a fire truck going over the bridge and what have you. So, with that being said, it's an all right movie to start off with. But then we get the sequel 2 years later with Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And in this movie, you have it's sometime later from the first one, and Sue and Reed are getting married. And they're trying to have their wedding, and a bunch of these little anomalies keep popping up. The water just freezes in Japan, like it just stops, like nothing's moving. You got a bunch of places where there's big giant sinkholes that pop up somewhere, and then the government calls the Fantastic Four to help them and try to figure out what's going on. Um, and it's the cause of the Silver Surfer, who basically is um, basically is like bringing on like Galactus, and is basically like trying to like wipe out the resources and everything on the planet. And so it's an interesting character, which I think the design is very well done. Who's played by, voiced by Lawrence Fishburne, but played by Doug Jones, who's in the suit. And I think that design, I don't think you get it more perfect than what they did with that. I'm curious to see. I think they said it's going to be a woman for this new Silver Surfer, which I really don't have an opinion on that. I guess if they just do the character right, that's what I'm worried about. Woman, male, doesn't really matter. Um, but yeah, you bring back Doctor Doom. You have the Silver Surfer, and Doctor Doom is played by the same guy, and he's just as corny and goofy as mustache twirling villain, so to speak. And basically, the Silver Surfer, once he gets taken off the board, like a lot of his power comes from the surfboard, and so it's kind of an interesting character, who tries to help the Fantastic Four try to take out Victor, but is almost like this bad omen, with basically it's like your world is about to die and there ain't nothing you can do about it, and then he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie. Spoiler, I guess, but basically sacrifices himself, and um, you know he becomes a good guy, 'cause he's kind of a bad guy, but he becomes a good guy at the end. And so the movie, like I said, I wish there was more. We do see the bad thing is we see a lot of the Silver Surfer sitting in a room talking, or at a costume talking. There's not very much saving going. Um, there is some cool scenes where you have them with the Ferris wheel in England. And I forgot to mention that you also have Johnny Storm. Once he comes in contact with the Silver Surfer, his powers, like he'll touch somebody and he'll switch powers with them. So he was like switching powers with the Reed Richards, and then at the end when they figure out how to do that, they switch back powers, and he's got all the powers of all the Fantastic Four, and basically takes out Doctor Doom. And so that was kind of a cool little plot thing. And Chris Evans, everybody comes back. Um, but as far as the first movie, I think this one, it's not like totally terrible. Like a lot of people, they read into this stuff way too much, especially if you're comic book fans. And I've talked about it before. I don't really read comics. I don't read. Um, you know, I don't know how close it is to the comic book depiction, But as far as a movie goes, you have to look right. I think you would have had a great cast if you would have given them more movies to like flesh out the see them do more heroic stuff. I think it would have been they would have been fine amongst the other superheroes superhero movies that we've seen, which we've got to see like Iron Man be fleshed out over so many like over a decade now, and he's going to be coming back for the new movie, or not Iron Man per se, but Robert Downey Jr. Um, but yeah, I think this cast of actors, I think if we would have got them another movie or another couple movies or have them team up with somebody else, I think we could have really got a good Fantastic Four group, and they I think they would have been more highly regarded if they would have got more chances to shine in other movies. Um, but this one I would say is under it's under the first one as far as that concerns. But now we're going to talk about everybody's, I think, the universally most hated of the Fantastic Four movies so far. We'll see what the 2025 one holds. But so far, this one is the considerably the most hated one out of all of them, and that's 2015 Fantastic Four. Starring, Miles Teller is Mr. Fantastic. You got a young Michael B. Jordan. How I don't know how when he started acting, but he seems pretty young in this movie in 2015. And then a couple years later, he went on to do Creed and Killmonger and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, this movie I actually watched it tonight, and I've seen reviews of it. I've seen people like the Nostalgia Critic talking about it, and what they think of the movie, and they speak a lot of hyperbole because they probably speak more from like comic book fans. They probably grew up more reading that stuff, and so they probably have more to say about it than I do. But as going into it just as a movie, I think it's really, really lacking in, like I said, like, them as kids, like you see Ben and Reed as kids, and you see them grow up, and then they build this like um, teleporter essentially, and you have this character, I'm guessing is a teacher, but he acts like he's like a principal. But anyway, the character played by Dan Castellaneta, who does the voice of Homer Simpson and a bunch of other characters in The Simpsons. Um, but he plays like this teacher, and basically it's like he builds a teleporter and says like, "Oh, you're doing a magic trick," and like he blows up a backboard, and it's like, "Oh, you're disqualified from this competition." It's like a science fair thing that they're doing. I was like, that's weird. That would be pretty interesting to think about, but because he thinks it's some sort of trick that he did, that he kicks him out of the group or whatever. And so he gets the attention from this doctor who is the dad of Johnny Storm and is the adopted father of Sue Storm. Um, and they take Reeds and brings them to the facility, the Baxter facility, and they start building this um, machine that he basically made in his garage, but they build it on a bigger scale. And they bring in Victor Von Doom, who initially started the project, but they couldn't get anywhere with it. And yeah, it was a whole thing with that character. Who I think in this movie, I like the other actor better. I think because he's played an older version of the character. This one, I'm not sure. He said I don't. I think he's supposed to be old. He's definitely supposed to be older than Reed Richards in the movie because Reed Richards is in high school, um, and so I think he's definitely supposed to be older than him, but he acts like he's, you know, just a few years older. But I think he's supposed to be like a decade or so older than him, but he acts very uh, wienerish. I don't know how to say it, but he's like, he sees there's a scene where there's him and Reed and Sue are talking. They're just talking to each other, being cordial, and this guy's like, you need to be professional, and this, that, and the other. It's like, she's not into you, dude. It's like she's totally. They were separated for a reason. So he's basically, they're trying to do that same storyline where Doom is interested in Sue, but she wants Reed instead of Victor, and they tried to do the whole thing again. And but this guy, they weren't even together. They were just like he's just like very, he's just got a boner for Sue, and was like we couldn't be together and this that and the other. And then when they go to a planet. The machine works. They go to this planet and they start. Reed and Ben, Johnny and Victor, they all go to this planet, and then break they break the ground, and this energy like comes up, and they get hurt. Victor gets left behind on this planet, and that's how they basically get their powers when they come back through the portal. They get their powers like that, like kind of in the first movie. But then they go back, and Victor's like my world, my this that and the other, and I don't know. I just thought his character was more whiny in this movie. As far as like superheroing, they don't do very much. I think a lot more people die. A lot more people die in this movie than they do in the other ones, because there's like a scene where they get a sky portal from the Earth dimension to this other world, and like cars and stuff go out there. So you got people on this like stretch of road, and these cars go up in this portal, and so they're dead. They're not alive unless they get out of their car, which they don't see that. So we just see these cars flying up into this portal, so they're dead. And I think as far as like the look, the thing, CGI or what have you, it's 2015, so you really couldn't. I mean, as far as like the Hulk was CGI, so they kind of had to do that. So I think it's all right. I just think the movie's a little very darkly lit. That first movie, yeah, as cheesy as it is, it's still very vibrant, very bright. You can see the thing, he's very much orange. With this one, you can kind of tell sometimes he's orange, and sometimes he looks gray, and it looks very drab. Like, and the Snouch critic talked about this in in his review of it talks about how everybody needs to turn on a light, because there's this movie is very dark, and so, but as far as like the characters, like I think I would say they nailed the characters, but I think as far as like what the comics accuracy was going for, I think they did that more in the first one, because Johnny, I think specifically, is supposed to be more like this, smart mouth. He knows what he's doing, but he has too big of an ego to do the right thing and stuff like that, and basically puts himself in a lot of danger more than he needs to or has to. But he's like this hothead, which is funny because he's a fire character and he's a hot-headed. But regardless, I think they nailed that character more in those first movies than this one. This one, he's more just stubborn because he doesn't want to be like his dad and his adoptive sister, but he wants to do his own thing. But he's smart enough, and it's just weird that they did that instead. But I think they did that better in the first movie, because after the incident happens, he gets very serious and all this stuff. It's like, I want to join the cause and help the military and all this stuff. And it's like, I feel like that's not what the character would do. The first movie, he gets notoriety for being the Human Torch, and then he's like, oh yeah, I got sponsors, and he puts all the logos. I don't know if it was the second one or the first one where he puts all the logos on the uniform. And it's like, he's in it for the money, he's in it for the fame and all this stuff. But this guy, he's like, I want to join the military, and I want to be, all serious. And I think they just misstepped with that character. I do think the characters are set too young. I think if we would have got him like, he was in college, maybe. If we would have put his characters in high school, as I'm pretty sure he's in high school. Reed Richards is in high school, and Ben Grimm, they're the same age, so then they're in high school together. And I think if you would have said like, oh, he's in college now, I think it would have been a little bit less creepy. Because I don't know how old Sue is. I think she's probably in her mid-20s. So let's say he's 18 years old. 18-year-old messing around with an almost 30-year-old woman. It's a little weird if they're going to have a romantic interest in each other. But I wouldn't say this is like the worst movie ever made. One thing I will say, once they bring back Doom from this other dimension, he has that look, which is his suit that he was wearing, he's wearing like the space suit that he goes there, and with the this green goo that comes up and gets all over him, it melds to his skin, and so like his suit and his body, like it's like looks like this metal slash rock, fabric amalgamation all over his body, and he does not like. They doesn't look like he's wearing like the mask, the traditional looking mask, like from the first couple movies, the comics and stuff like that. It just looks like, it looks like a gimp. It looks like a gimp mask with green eyes and green, lights all over him. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as the other movies go, I will say this one does rank, as far as right now, it ranks lowest out of all of them. Like I said, I'm curious to see what they do with the 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 new ones called the Fantastic Four, the first steps. So I think it's going to be an origin. Um, but I'm curious to see where they go with those characters. Everybody was really talking crap about Pedro Pascal being Reed Richards, and I thought, I think he's older, so he looks closer to the look of Reed Richards. Oh, he's Mexican. It's like, you know, or he's, whatever he is, ethnic. I don't think it matters. There's so many characters that they changed comic wise, that are not the same from the comics, whatever. So if he's Spanish or Mexican or Colombian or whatever he is, if he's that, fine. You know, it's like his name is not Reed Richards. He calls himself Reed, but his real name is Ricardo or some shit like that. I don't care. I really don't. As far as the cast and everything goes, the only one I was thought was kind of weird, and like I said, just the casting. Not saying he's going to do a bad job. Was that guy Joseph Quinn, the guy who was I think Eddie? Is it Eddie? In Stranger Things. I haven't watched the show, but I thought that casting was a little weird. But maybe he has that personality that they had in the first, like those original comics. Maybe he's doing that. I don't know what they're doing with that character, but everybody else, I mean, it's fine. They're in that '60s futuristic aesthetic look, which I think is going to be kind of cool. Um, and yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with the franchise going forward, and I hope the movie does well when it comes out, and I can't wait to see it. So, what do you guys think of these movies? Do you like the Fantastic Four franchise? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And yeah, with that being said, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.